You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, 6th of June 2014. Mohammed Ballal held retired East Lancashire teacher in captivity and stole his home, jailed for just 50 months. Al-Hijrah governor's banned from school after £900,000 deficit revealed. Pastor James McConnell bows to pressure and apologises for unwittingly causing distress to Muslims with satanic Islam comments. Swiss canton says no to fundamentalist Muslim nursery school. EU anti-terror chief expects more small-scale attacks, such as the Brussels Museum. 7 killed as Ukrainian army resumes shelling in Slavansk. Prompt reorganization of Russian army due to NATO activities. Saudi Arabia, man wreaks havoc at Grand Mosque in Makkah. Thought for the day as D-Day comes around again. And finally, a trip to the chemists. Today is the 70th anniversary of D-Day, and it goes without saying that the British National Party and indeed all nationalists come together to commemorate not only the terrible losses of lives but the fighting spirit and guts that idealised our armed forces. Would these brave men and women recognise the England of today? Would they think it was worth their lives and their futures? Even speaking as a live yellow rat, I'm not so sure. There will be no Nick Griffin today as he is in France having a rest, and I don't blame it. We will do an interview type programme within the next 2 weeks for our supporters who apparently enjoyed the Forerunner very much. UK news. Mohammed Ballal held retired East Lancashire teacher in captivity and stole his home, and he's been jailed for just 50 months. A retired teacher was kept a virtual prisoner for several months in a squalid bedsit and subjected to degrading and brutal abuse, a court heard. Mohammed Ballal is now starting a 50-month jail sentence after bullying 63-year-old Gerald Kennedy into transferring ownership of his home to someone else and buying a £22,000 sports car. Preston Crown Court heard that Mr Kennedy was the victim of regular assaults, including being throttled, punched and kicked between the legs as Ballal treated him as his chauffeur and lackey. His ordeal only ended when Mr Kennedy was able to escape from the bedsit and confide what had happened to a trusted friend, the court also heard. World at 8. When some jippos committed this crime, the publicity machine went mad, but this has hardly made a ripple, and why? Muslim mustn't offend the Muslims yet again. Al-Hijrah governor's banned from school after £900,000 deficit revealed. Executive Board bars entire governing board from Al-Hijrah School in Bordsley Green after revealing a deficit of nearly £900,000. The entire governing board of Birmingham School has been banned from its premises as it was revealed the school was facing a £900,000 deficit. The interim executive board, IEB, at Al-Hijrah School has issued legal letters to the former chair of governors and all other former governors, barring them from the school site with immediate effect. It is understood the letters warn that breaching the ban could be classed as a criminal offence under section 547 of the Education Act 1996 and could lead to enforcement of action. A statement from the IEB issued through the City Council said, "The IEB has 3 times in recent days tried to go about its lawful business but has been turned away each time by the school. The refusal of the previous governing body is unprecedented. The council also has serious anxiety about the school's financial position, with its deficit currently standing at £889,000. Al-Hijrah, based in Bordsley Green, is the city's only Islamic school and caters for children aged from 4 to 16 and was once one of the most sought after schools in the country. World at 8. And these so-called governors will get away with it because of the racial and religious issues in this country and in Europe. Pastor James McConnell bows to pressure and apologises for unwittingly causing distress to Muslims with satanic Islam comments. Pastor James McConnell has been questioned by detectives at Newtontown Abbey Police Station. On the same morning he issued a public apology for any distress he may have unwittingly caused to Muslims with his controversial sermon on Islam. The sermon, in which he described Islam as a satanic religion and a doctrine spawned in hell, became a full-blown political row after the First Minister defended the comments and said he would not trust Muslims who have been involved in terrorist activities or those devoted to Sharia law. The preacher is being investigated by the PSNI over a potential hate crime and was questioned for almost 2 hours on Friday. It's understood he attended the police station voluntarily. His solicitor Joe Rice said the questioning was cordial, but the police were still investigating his comments. Mr McConnell's church, the Whitewell Metropolitan Tabernacle in North Belfast, issued a clarification statement on Friday morning. He did not apologise for what he said in his sermon, but stated, "I had no intention of causing any offence or insulting any member of the Muslim community, or to arouse fear or stir up or incite a hatred towards any member of the Muslim community. I wish to apologise publicly for any distress I may have unwittingly caused on my part. My sermon was drawing attention to how many followers of Islam have, regrettably, interpreted the doctrine of Islam as justification for violence. I have qualified my comments by reference to those who use their religion as justification for violence. As a preacher of the Word of God, it is this interpretation of the doctrine of Islam which I am condemning. I abhor violence and condemn anyone of any faith who uses religion to justify it." World at 8. The plods should have something better to do than secure their pensions via Islam. European news. Swiss cantons say no to fundamentalist Muslim nursery school. The first Muslim nursery school in Switzerland, which was planned to be opened this year, will not open in Zurich. The education department of the German language canton has carefully looked into the proposals of the Al-Hijrah Association to open this institution for children aged between 4 and 6, where they could study the basics of Islam, and refused to issue a licence. The teachers of the would-be nursery school promised to train their pupils in accordance with the curriculum adopted by the Swiss Education Ministry, only adding lessons of Arabic and Quran. The children were to be trained in Islamic traditions so as to consolidate the Muslim community in Switzerland. The administration of the would-be nursery school is associated with that Islamic Central Council the Zurich Canton Education Department reports on its website. For this reason, the Swiss authorities fear that lesson plans for the nursery school would be written by representatives of a fundamentalist organisation. World at 8. Islam doesn't need consolidating anywhere outside of Saudi Arabia or thereabouts. An EU anti-terror chief expects more small-scale attacks such as the Brussels Museum. Europe can expect further small-scale attacks like the fatal shooting at the Jewish Museum in Brussels, the EU's anti-terror chief Gerald Kennedy said Monday. "I don't expect another 9/11, he said in a video statement. "I don't expect a major sophisticated attack. I expect more small-scale attacks like the one in Brussels," he added, referring to the May 24th attack that left 3 dead and a young man fighting for his life. A 29-year-old Frenchman, Mehdi Nemouche, who spent more than a year fighting in Syria, is being held in custody on suspicion of the attack after being detained Friday in Marseille. De Kerkhove said that more than 2,000 Europeans had left for Syria, were on their way there, where they will get military training, become much more radicalised and have a network across Europe. Though few will mount an attack, the Brussels incident was very, very worrying for Europe's future security, he said. World at 8. If you've seen the video where the local Muslims get together and claim that they are the victims of this attack, and poor little old them, you would realise that we have had a problem in Europe for the last 40 years. Seven killed as Ukrainian army resumes shelling in Slavansk. The Ukrainian army resumed shelling in Slavansk and continued military confrontation on Tuesday evening, steadily attempting to lock in the city, self-defence leader told RIA Novosti. "The situation is very difficult for us. The opponents are constantly using planes against us, 2 to 3 strike fighters at a time, changing the flights as they work with several airfields, and 6 to 7 combat helicopters. A squadron of Uragan rocket launchers is headed our way, and Grad rocket launchers already operate in Semenovka today. The number of self-propelled and conventional howitzers above 120mm is well over 50. I won't even start to count the mortars. The opponent's goal is to close the ring round Slavansk once and for all," Igor Strelkov, leader of the Slavansk self-defence forces, told RIA Novosti. Witnesses report explosions around the Semenovka village in the suburbs of Slavansk. There are also shootouts between the independence and security forces at the Kramatorsk airport and the roadblock near the village of Kirovsk. Self-defence headquarters reported end-of-day casualties, 7 people killed and around 10 injured. World news. Prompt reorganisation of Russian army due to NATO activities. Due to enhanced activities of NATO near Russia's western borders and the events in Ukraine, it has been decided to hold a prompt reorganisation of the Russian armed forces in order to increase troop mobility in this and other strategic directions. Russian State Duma Defence Committee head Admiral Vladimir Koymyrdedov told Interfax AVN on Tuesday. Due to the conflict in Ukraine and considerable NATO reinforcements on our country's west, we are currently working on proposals relating to reorganising troops and army and fleet forces to increase their mobility, Koymyrdedov said. According to Koymyrdedov, it concerns enhancing military potential and troop mobility in all areas, space, ground and sea. We think that now our forces should be ready to respond promptly to new threats and challenges all around our borders, from Kaliningrad to Kamchatka, Koymyrdedov said. Saudi Arabia. Man wreaks havoc at Grand Mosque in Mecca. A mentally ill African man claiming to be Jesus Christ mounted a wall at the Grand Mosque in western Saudi town of Mecca and smashed a lamp before he was captured by security men, newspapers reported on Thursday. The man had managed to sneak into the mosque through thousands of Muslim pilgrims and climb the wall before attacking a lamp and smashing part of it. We arrested the man. He was not under the influence of drugs or alcohol, as some social networks say. He is mentally ill as he claimed to be Jesus Christ, said Major General Yeha al-Zarani, security chief at the Grand Mosque. World at 8. Well, he will be disposed of without fuss or bother, especially as he claimed he was Jesus and not Mohammed. Thought for the day. As D-Day comes around again. Today is an emotive day for many, but getting fewer families in this country. Of course, the real meaning of D-Day and the sacrifice of the many for the few has been hijacked by the media as an anti-fascist day, when the deadly foes of freedom and democracy were put on the road to defeat. Of course, despite our heroes, and every country had its heroes, not to be forgotten ever, under the title of the unknown soldier, Europe could not have defeated the Third Reich without the full force of the Americans and Russians. And we all know from recent skirmishes how, if you give a country or a people someone to hate, they will all rush around hating them with vim, vigour and arms. Usually in the name of democracy or Islam, or in a very odd way of thinking both, when of course both do not inhabit the same planet. So this day, above all others apart from Poppy Day, remains the last true bastion of British memories of power, country and ideals. Why? Because we've lost all of those and more in the 70 years since. This country, and indeed a large proportion of Europe, has been the playground of the Frankfurt School of Indoctrination on a massive scale, as the message clearly given from the end of the last war from the Allies was that patriotism and nationalism resulted in states like the Third Reich rising, and if you note, the media always refers to the rise of the far right, as if that sentence actually heralds the done deal. Oh, I wish. If you Google Frankfurt etc., you will see this title is synonymous with political correctness and many ideas which we take for granted as a way of life today in Europe, the UK and with even more fervour in the United States. Now, Herbert Marcuse, July 19, 1898 to July 29, 1979, was a German-American philosopher, sociologist and political theorist associated with the Frankfurt School of Critical Theory. Born in Berlin into a Jewish family, Marcuse studied at the universities of Berlin and then at Freiburg, where he received his PhD. He was a prominent figure in the Frankfurt-based Institute for Social Research, what later became known as the Frankfurt School. He was married to Sophie Wertheim, 1924–1951, Inga Neumann, 1955–1972 and Erika Sherova, 1976–1979. Active in the United States after 1934, his intellectual concerns were the dehumanising effects of capitalism and modern technology. He offers a powerful critique of modern industrial societies and the material and entertainment cultures they manufacture, arguing that they use new forms of social control to dupe the masses into accepting the way things are. After his studies in the late 1960s and 1970s, he became known as the preeminent theorist of the New Left and student movements of Germany, France and the US. Between 1943 and 1950, Marcuse worked in the US government service, which helped form the basis of his book Soviet Marxism 1964. Celebrated as the father of the New Left, his best known works are Eros and Civilization 1955 and One-Dimensional Man 1964. His Marxist scholarship inspired many radical intellectuals and political activists in the 1960s and 70s, both in the US and internationally. Now, the main ethos of the Frankfurt School was the message of positive propaganda, anti-racism, anti-family, anti-tradition and anti-culture. It is the main message, but much better put than that of Marx, to make everything dear to a person, people or country disabled and not worth anything. Because if any sovereign or state gives a people something to believe in, they will, however gutless, fight for it. Whereas in the case of taking every possible tradition and history from them, you will have a mixed and broken society to control. The Jews unfortunately have the high ground on this one, as of course many weep and wail, yet make millions out of the Holocaust in the last 70 years. But it was the Jewish communists who fought against the Third Reich before it even came into being, when they fought against the Kaiser and their country even then from within. That is how the Nazi Party came about, to suppress the so-called workers' revolts, and the first title of the Nazis was the Nationalist Socialist German Workers' Party, alias Nationalsozialistische Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, commonly known in English as the Nazi Party, abbreviated NSDAP, was the political party in Germany active between 1920 and 1945. Its predecessor, the German Workers' Party, DAP, existed from 1919 to 1920, headed by Anton Drexler. This, of course, could have been the real reason why the Nazis didn't take too kindly to the Jewish people. Many blonde-haired, blue-eyed ones at that, many of whom backed the Communist Party, even though, thinking it through, communists are anti-religion. So personally, I don't quite understand that one. But many Jews who I have known do not acknowledge their Judaic faith and indeed struggle against it. And this Frankfurt guy was one of them. His mantra seems to have been, if I don't believe, then no one will believe. And unfortunately his mantras seem to have taken hold in the UK strongly over the last 40 years. You have to admit that British or English standards have gone down the hole, haven't they? We are now so immersed in what is allowed and what is not, political correctness gone mad, that we as a country have lost touch with the real realities of what is actually happening under our very noses. Due to very clever media positive propaganda, most of the sheeples wouldn't or couldn't fight for their next meal if pushed to it, because of course it is better to feed foreigners than our own. Our culture and history have gone or been intruded on so much they are no longer even remotely true, and that is what is being told to our children. White Europeans will soon no longer exist in their true form, but mixed, as nothing works in destroying a people than doing literally just that. Miscegenation on a large and popular scale. We are reliant on foreign food and much and more, as all our home industries and farming are well on the way to being destroyed, either by finances or lack of them, or building on the arable land for more foreigners. Marriages, except for the awful hen and stag parties and ridiculous amounts of money spent by quite humble people, are over by the 5th year, as we're all being encouraged from a very early age to find ourselves and live alone as strong women. Crap. It is the simple demolition of traditions that we have to thank Herbert Frankfurt for. It has worked, and this is how it's been done. Demote religion, but if you can use one religious body against another to use it, then ditch it. Demote patriotism when not in the hands of the people you need to use it against not needed patriots. Demote family, families, births, partnerships, commitment, heterosexual or familial. Demote history and culture and substitute another or others alien to that culture. Promote education of the masses with all the above messages and more. Promote mixed race activities and people on the television, both programmes and adverts. This message must get through. And also promote anti-racist propaganda. Promote foreign workers above that of the country they go to. This involves very clever and careful propaganda over many years, telling that country that immigration is good for them. And we all know much, much more. An example, a guy who lives near me is middle-aged, divorced, no children. Next door a passel of Nepalese have moved in. No furniture, just mattresses, men, women and children, into a 2-bedroomed house. Speaking to him the other day, I remarked jokingly that the mattresses were back, insofar around 5 doubles had been marched down the back alleyway and the rests stored in their garage. His reaction, not laughter, not horror, just, well, if they're quiet I don't mind. And I thought, well, this Frankfurt school has worked very well over the odds even down here. There he is, no children, no one to carry his name when he dies, and next door is a potential of around 30 odd descendants on the 16 living there now in the short term, using whatever facility they wish that he has paid for. Now you see what I mean about gutless. And another odd message. Someone gave a comment I was sent, and he's been commenting on the BNP for years, and he said, vote UKIP. And I thought that if anyone actually votes again for UKIP, or indeed the other two main parties, they're voting for the Frankfurt School of Indoctrination. Why? Because any other political party that is encouraged, promoted and publicised in this country is not far from that particular school. Because any other party who rejects the Frankfurt School, as we nationalists do, are not allowed anywhere near the public before, during or after election times, and indeed any times at all. It is all in the plan, my friends, all in the plan. But the question is, how much longer will it take for the sheeples to realise they are the main players on a sinking ship? And finally, a visit to the chemist. A man walks into a pharmacy and wanders up and down the aisles. The salesgirl notices him and asks him if she can help him. He answers he's looking for a box of tampons for his wife. She directs him down the correct aisle. A few minutes later he deposits a huge bag of cotton balls and a ball of string on the counter. She says, confused, "Sir, I thought you were looking for some tampons for your wife." He answers, "You see, it's like this. Yesterday I sent my wife to the store to get me a carton of cigarettes, and she came back with a tin of tobacco and some rolling papers, 'cause it's so much cheaper. So I figure if I have to roll my own, so does she." You've been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozar, and I and the team at World at 8 and Radio Britain wish you all a very happy and a very safe weekend.